Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam
wabarakatuh.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Morning, everyone. How
Hi, ma'am. Ma'am.
I hope that all of you are safe and also feel healthy. Even though that we have to face this kind of pandemic situation, I hope that it won't establish us to keep learning and keep studying. So, before we start our lesson today, now let's have a pray based on our beliefness and based on our faith. Pray begin. Alright, pray finish. So, as a reminder, students, I want all of you to fill the present in the Google form so you have your attendance is still countable. So, do not forget to fill the present in the Google form first. So, today we are going to learn about the factors influencing the reaction rate, which we would like to impress the temperature factor. So before we move in and digging around, I want to read the learning objective that we've got after learning this material. So I hope that all of us can achieve both of them. I hope that all of us will be motivated enough to keep learning and also keep studying about it. Next. Okay, the learning objectives are the first is you can get in the collision chemical reaction properly. And then for second one, you also can analyze the factors that influence the reaction rate, and then you can describe the effect of the temperature for the reaction rate properly. And not only that, but also you can conduct an experiment of the temperature factor that influencing the reaction rate properly until you finally be able to result up this the result of the experiment properly. So those are our learning objectives. I hope that all of us can achieve. And next, so before start our lesson today, I'm going to ask you something that relate to this material. And the question is, do you still remember about the collision theory?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes. All right. I want one of you to maybe give a simple explanation or maybe give a simple information about this material to
Me, ma'am.
our story. Yes. Yes. Go ahead, Alfira.
Collision theory states that for a chemical reaction to occur, the reacting particle must collide with one another. The rate of the reaction depends on the frequency of collisions.
All right, that is correct. So that was excellent. So why do we have to learn about the theory? Because it is actually influencing for the reaction rate. So what we have to impress that there is divided into two the collision theory. Next, so the first theory is the which we learn is the effective collision. This is the collision which triggering for the reaction. And the collision theory means that your particles has already been fulfilled three kind of conditions. First one is when your particles collide at each other, and then for the second one you have the phase or right orientation, and then for the last you have the sufficient energy. So that was the thing that the effective collision needs. And if your particles has one or maybe lots of things that they not fulfilled enough, then it will turn into the ineffective collision. Next, just like this. So the collision is not suitable, and your particles is only just bouncing, not get reacting together. So what we have to impress that depending on the collision, right, the frequency of the collision. But in this state, have you theory? I mean, how important? Why do we have to keep learning about this material before we start our main material, which reaction rate? Because students, this material it is so important our main material because if we not understand enough about the collision theory, then you don't know why do the factors influencing your because your factors it is influencing the frequency of the collision, and the frequency of the collision itself it affecting the reaction rate afterward. So that is why we have to impress that the factors is actually influencing the collision particles first, and then it would influencing the reaction rate afterward, just like that. And now who wants to mention the factors that influencing the reaction rate?
Me, ma'am.
Oh yes, go ahead.
There are four factors that influence reaction rate. There are concentration, temperature, surface area, and catalyst.
Right, that's correct. So there are four factors that influencing the rate. rate. There are concentration, temperature, etc. And also the last one is a catalyst. And what we have to learn right now is about the temperature itself. But before we move further, I'm going to explain the next again. Next. Yes. So before we move further, I'm going to explain the theory outline of the temperature. So actually, increasing the temperature of a substance increases the average kinetic energy of the particles that make up the substance. So the temperature will increasing the substance of the substance particles of your reactant. So it will collide each other more frequently compared with before. And also, more of the collision at high temperature have enough energy to overcome the energy barrier and react. So that is actually how the temperature works to colliding your particles each other like that. And next, and to make you more understand, now let's check out about the problem. What is this?
Apple.
What is this?
Apple.
Apples. Yes. Do you like the apples?
Yes, really.
Yes.
Yes. Who doesn't?
Yes, of course.
Everyone
Yes,
loves the apples. Apples are
yes,
so
I
delicious.
have one in my.
All right, you have one. Can you bring it
Yes.
with me?
No, no, no. It's good, ma'am.
Oh, all right. The apples is not the problem. Apples has no problem because apples never get it wrong. The apples is so delicious. But it would be problem when you slice into some part next, just like this, and then when you just let it for a moment, it will turn into this next, just like this. Now, do you still like it?
No,
No. Yeah.
I don't like it.
So
Because
when you let it for a moment, it will turn into brown because it got react with air. What kind of the reaction?
I think that the reaction.
Correct. That was the reaction. That was the time when the apples are getting react together with the oxygen, or we also known as the enzymatic browning. The enzymatic browning, because known as that because the enzyme inside of the fruit react together with the air, with the oxygen, and turn the fruit into brown. So if we ask about the fruit, is it edible? Then the answer is yes. You still can eat the apples, but it's still not appetizing at all. And also the apples lost nutrients, not as fresh as before, because the nutrients has rubbed with the air, just like that. But the question for the fresh apple, I mean for the apples when you not slice it up, does it still look so fresh until forever? Then the answer is no, because even though that you not slice it up, it still got react to the air, but not as fast as the enzymatic browning. So the apples, when you let it set, when you let it for maybe for days, it will turn into this. Next, it will turn into the rotten apple. So the oxidation reaction, it's not like only for the sliced apple, also which for the huge apple, for the fully apples with the skin on top, the skin on it, doesn't mean that they cannot react together. So do you still like it when your apple cutting rot like this?
No,
No.
no, I
Is
don't
it
like
edible?
it.
Is it edible?
It's
That the answer
edible, but I don't like it.
you is it edible? All right. Now, next slide. All right. There is a different time. This is a fun fact. There is a different time needed to turn them into brown or rot. Now let's see the comparison for the first one is the browning apple. But the room temperature, it takes 5 to 10 minutes to turn your apple into brown. But when it cool temperature, it has 3 until 5 days, which means it has a really contrast time comparing with the room temperature also. And for the rotten apple, it is also have a different time, which from the room temperature to the cool temperature. For the room temperature, it has 5 until 7 days. But when the cool temperature, the fun fact, it has a really, really contrast time, which it has 4 until 6 weeks, which means it almost kind of 2 months, I guess. 2 months. It is almost 2 months. So the differences time, it is pretty different. Next slide. So here's the complete problem. So I'm going to explain something that the manager of the mentioned fruit company, Doc England, said at least 200 pounds are dumped in this season. The dumping occurred through the summer of the 2015 because the apples had bad quality to package caused by run or browning. While part of the browning or round apples give disadvantages for those who consume because they're definitely not appetizing to eat and their nutrients such as vitamin C, dough power, etc. are robbed while getting reactive together with the air, especially for the round apples that can be damaged. But in fact, the apples have a different time needed to turn brown or red that we have learned before according to the temperature. So, how did it happen? How come? And according to the material that you've learned, solve the problem by giving a solution how to prevent the apples to not getting brown or not easily, just like that. So, next slide. So, to help you solve the problem, now let's open the student worksheet that we're working on it. And the student worksheet that I've been shared to you last night. Before we start to learn this student worksheet, I'm going to divide you into some groups. For the first group is Gayatri, Virial, and Alvira. And group is Tika, Hana, and Yanti. This group was made for you to work in your student worksheet, so you can discuss with your friend. You can discuss with through many social media that you have. You can use from WhatsApp, Instagram, or etc. As long as you can discuss together. All right, now let's open the student worksheet. This student worksheet, please. All right, there's the student worksheet. Now let's move into the problem solving activity. Yes, let's be around in this problem solving activity. There, we already been written that there is a theory that we've learned before, and also in the lower side there's a problem. The problem that we have learned, we have discussed. Yeah, and then for the next one, for the if you can see in the down here, yes, there is a problem identification and formulation, and then followed by the hypothesis, and then followed by the variables, equipment substance, lens work, observation result, analysis until you finally get the conclusion of this material. So, for the first task, I want all of you to discuss with your friend, with the problem identification and also the problem formulation, and then do not forget to get the hypothesis first and to find out actually why do we have to why do we have to working on this student worksheet, because this student worksheet it is actually can guide you to find out what is the exact meaning of learning, and then finally you can finally conclude about this material perfectly and you can prove this material with your own hands. So for the first task, I want all of you to working on the problem identification and formulation, and to not forget the hypothesis. You can discuss with your friend. I'm going to give you several minutes to do that. Starts now.
Ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am.
All right. Have you finished?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, who wants to present problem identification, formulation, and also the hypothesis?
Yeah, ma'am. Me from
Yeah,
group one.
Gayatri from.
Okay. From group one, we think that the problem is the apples have a contrast different time to turn brown and rot according to the temperature. The problem formulation are 1. How is the influence of temperature to the reaction rate? And 2. How to prevent the apples to not getting brown or rot easily. And now, our hypothesis is the higher the temperature, the faster the its reaction rate. Also, to prevent the apples from getting brown or rot easily, we can put them into a place with low or cool temperature.
All right, that is correct. That is super correct. Then how about the other? Any addition or interruption?
No, ma'am. Same.
The group two? No.
No, same, ma'am.
All right, same like. All right, that is correct. We actually facing the main problem, which we have a differences time for the apples to getting rot and also for getting brown, depending on the temperature. So for the next one, I want all of you to write down the variables. Who wants to present for the variables?
Me, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
From group 2, the variable for the first control variable is type of apple, and the second
Yes.
manipulation variable is temperature, and response variable is time to getting brown or red.
All right. That is. And how about the group? The other group? Any addition or interruption maybe for the variables?
We also have the same variable as group 2 memes.
All right. That is right. So the control variables is type of apples, and then for the manipulation variables is temperature, and then for the response one is the time to getting brown or red. Now, to prove your hypothesis, now let's do for the simple experiment, which this simple experiment is not by waiting for the apples to getting brown or getting rot, not like that, because we have a lot of time. We have to seize that day. So the experiment is we are going to use the other example, the other type that that finally can guide you to get the result. Still, the result is still can answer your problem, but using an example to do the experiment. Is it okay? Why not? Because as long as your experiment result can answer your problems and also can give a solution for your problem, then it's okay. Who wants to show and also who wants to read about the equipment that we need to experiment?
Me, ma'am.
Yes, Gayatri. Please show.
Okay.
You,
Okay, but first, I will use my laboratory.
all right. For all of you, please also wear the lab coat. I mean, to yeah, good attitude. Go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. I
Yes.
start now. Okay. Now for this experiment, we have several tools and materials. The first is 2 cups of water, and the first cup is cold water, and the second cup is hot water. You can see that it's still hot. And then
Yes.
we have redoxon, the
Yes.
tablets of
Right.
redoxon with the same size. And then we have we have timer and we use cell phone for that.
So those are the equipment that we need to do this simple experiment because we are going to use a reaction as our example or our type to find out the solution. Then it's okay. And who wants to read the lens work?
Okay, me, ma'am.
All right, go ahead, Tika.
Okay, so prepare 2 cups that made of 2 cups of water, and then
Yes.
the first one is hot and the other one is cold, and then put a redoxon, 1 cup each for each cups,
Yes.
like this, and don't forget to set a timer using stopwatch, and then we can start to uh, observe and write down the timer for redoxon to fully react with each type of water.
All right. Thank you. So right now we are going to do some experimental, just like Tika said, to make sure that all of you are still be able to do this experiment. You can read the lens work in the sort worksheet. So do not forget to write down your observation results first. I'm going to give you several minutes to do the experiment. The experiment starts now.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes.
Uh, like this, ma'am.
What do you
So
guys?
cool. It's bubbling. Oh man,
Oh, it's,
It's
he's
bubbly.
so
yeah.
fast. The hot one is so fast
The
compared to
water
this.
is
Wow.
Yes, that's correct.
bubbly. So
All right. Have you
interesting.
done?
Yes,
Have you done?
Yes, ma'am.
yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Now
Done.
now I'm going to give you several minutes to write down your observation result and also the analysis for your experiment. I'm going to give you several minutes to do that. Starts now. All right, time's up. Are you done?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, who wants to present for the observation result? Which group?
Me, ma'am.
What a friend. Yes. All right. Real.
Reduction need to react with hot water for 200 seconds, while for cold water is 1500 seconds. For the observation, the bubbles more appeared in the hot water comparing with cold.
Nice. What about the other group? Your observation result?
Me, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
For the time need, the reduction to react in hot water is 180 seconds, while the cold water is 1700 seconds, and the observation result something like group 1.
All right. So even though that one of the groups has a slightly different time, but you have show that the hot temperature has so much faster time to make the reduce and curve together, right? So how about the analysis? Who wants to present for the analysis?
Okay, me, ma'am. When the
All right, go
reduction
ahead.
placed in water, sodium bicarbonate and vitamin C ascorbic acid that contained in redoxon react together and release the carbon dioxide, which shown when the bubbles appears. The time for hot water to make sodium bicarbonate and vitamin C react each other has so much faster comparing with the cold water. That's because hot temperature increase the average kinetic energy of the reactant particles that make up the substance. So the particles collide more frequently at higher temperature than at lower temperature.
All right. How about the group one, maybe? Any addition or maybe any interruption?
We would like to give an addition with relating the experiment with the problem. The experiment result contained with the problems, which at high temperature the particle of apples easily react with the air and occur the redox reaction. The particle between apples and air collide more frequently at high temperature than low. That's why the apples turn brown and rot easily at high temperature.
Actually, I'm very appreciative for both of you guys because one of the groups already understand about this material and both of you already know how to relating your experiment result and also about the problem that you face. And that is true that about the hot temperature, it is actually activate the kinetic energy of the particles, so it would collide more, and that is why it has been shown whether for the redoxon, whether for the apples, that they easily to react when they are at the hot temperature compared with the cold temperature one. So all of you already understand how to relating about the experiment result with your analysis and also with the problem that you face. Congratulations to all of you. So, according to your analysis of the experiment, you finally can get the answer how do the problems happen. Now, I want all of you to give a solution about our problems before, our Apple problem. How about the solution? Who wants to offering the solution?
Me,
What's,
ma'am.
oh yeah, all right, Hannah, go ahead.
We offered a solution with storage the apples in the fridge, whether for the sliced apple or not to prevent the apple react with oxygen with.
All right, that is correct. That if we want to make the apples are not easily react together with the oxygen, they're not oxidized easily, we can put or storage the apples in the refrigerator or in the fridge, which has the cold temperature comparing in the room temperature like this. All right, that is correct. And who wants to maybe have an maybe wants to offering the other solution, which it's not comparing with the our variables. It's okay. Wants to offering this? Yes.
Women,
Yes.
I have one. Okay. We can do the sulfuring method. Sulfuring commercially is done on fruit using sweet food dioxide gas. Also, the citric acid addition as an edible food. Citric acid, which is found in lemons, is very easily oxidized and can be used as an oxygen binder to prevent the apple from the turning brown. Maybe that
Thank you very
I
much. Now, since all of you already know about how to do how to do the experiment and also already know how to learn about this material, now who wants to conclude whether for the conclusion of the experiment or also whether for the conclusion of the material? Who wants to conclude?
Me, ma'am.
Oh yes, Alfira. All right, go ahead, Alfira.
The first conclusion is the higher is temperature, the higher is reaction rate, because hot temperature increases the average kinetic energy of the reactant particles that make up the substance. So the particles collide more frequently at higher temperatures than at lower temperatures. And the second conclusion is there are many ways to prevent the apples not getting oxidized easily, such as we have to make sure that apples are stored in a cool temperature like a fridge. The other way are sulfuric method and citric acid addition as an edible coat.
All right, that is correct. So in here we have two conclusions. The first conclusion is the higher its temperature, and then the faster also its reaction rate. The higher its reaction rate. And for the second conclusion, we have so many ways to prevent our apples to not getting rot or getting brown easily, just like what Gayatri said, and that's correct. So students, do not forget about the concept that we have learned today about the that we face about how to do the experiment, how to solve it, just like that. To not forget about steps and also the gradients, and also the materials about the factors that influence in the reaction rate. I hope that all of you already mastering about that. But to make sure that all of you already have mastering about materials, I want to give you a task, which the task is I want all of you to do a simple experiment like before, but with a different type or different example. And for the second task is I want all of you to make a summary about this material. So I'm sure that all of you are still are already mastering about this material, just like that. So, for next meeting, also I want you to prepare, to well prepare. You may read many sources that you have. You may read a journal or textbook or something like that. So, next material we can learn about the new material with ease, just like that. And according to your materials, according to your assignment, we already have a Schoology, right? The Schoology application. Do not forget, and the application you can upload the assignment there, and also we can access for many videos, and later on you can get or take the quiz in there properly in the Schoology application. So before we close our meeting today, uh, Tika, please lead a prayer.
Okay, before we close our meeting, let's pray together. Pray begin.
All right.
Pray finish.
All right, thank you very much. So please, students, this virtual learning is never stop us to keep learning. Okay, if anyone say that virtual learning is really stop is kind of stop us to keep learning because we're still not be able to meet each other, then I'm disagree about that, because we also already surrounded by many technology, many applications that we have, so it should be support us, not holding us. All right, so there's no mercy, there's no reason for learning without meeting. All right, so thank you very much for your attention, guys. I hope that all of you are still in good condition for later on. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. We love you, ma'am.